September 8th at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 9 Pacific, but check local listings.
Please welcome Barbra Hinske.
Hallmark Movies and Mysteries is playing their original movie based upon my book, Guiding Emily.
Author of the Guiding Emily series, the Rosemont series, and much more.
Every character in the movie, with the exception of Emily, is a visually impaired actor.
And without further ado, here's Barbra Hinske. We hope you enjoy.
I'm so proud of the work they've done in this movie. I get weekly emails from people who have newly blind adults or people who are losing their sight. And those emails either tell me that the book has given them hope or has made them less afraid.
Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson. Returning to the studio back from podcast number 644 back in, I believe it was 2020. We had USA Today best-selling author Barbra Hinske. Welcome back to Blind Abilities.
Thank you so much. It's so fun to be back. I love it.
I'm so glad you're here because it was Guiding Emily, a tale of love, loss, and courage when you came on here. Yeah, way back. It seems so long ago, but I think the pandemic kind of stretched that out a little bit. But you have some breaking news coming out now.
I do. So when I was with you last time, Guiding Emily was just a brand new baby book.
Mm-hmm.
And as of September 8th, Friday, September 8th, it will be a brand new baby Hallmark Movies and Mysteries movie.
Oh, wow.
So within 3 years, it's been adapted for the screen, and I couldn't be happier.
And there's 4 books in the series.
Yes, there's 4 books in the series, and there will be more. And if viewership is strong enough, and I suspect it will be, for the movie, Hallmark will make it into a recurring television series, which, any author is incredibly lucky to have their work adapted for the screen, let alone made into a series. But I'm particularly excited for this book and this series because of the reaction within both the sighted and the visually impaired communities to this series of books.
Well, not only the reaction, but the education that it has the possibilities of bringing to the sighted community as well as the blind and visually impaired community.
This book has had such a wide outreach. In doing my research, I was just stunned that the unemployment rate among people who are visually impaired is 70%, 70. I was shocked by that. And then as I was talking to people, I've heard of reasons why people with visual impairments have been let go for reasons that make no sense whatsoever. Like the insurance company for the business they worked for, retail operation, won't allow the manager to be visually impaired because they think their patrons won't be safe.
Mm-hmm.
What in the world? So I became very aware that we need to really raise awareness of the capabilities of visually impaired people. I always love when employers are always yammering on about they want to find people who can think and problem solve outside the box. It's all big to be a problem solver. Well, if you want somebody who knows how to solve problems, hire yourself someone with visually impairments because that's what they do all day long. And problem solving is a skill. It is a sort of a muscle that you need to exercise by using it. So that's one of the goals of this series.
Yeah, you're right. Problem solving is a huge thing, and we have to find different ways of doing things all the time, and people don't really realize that we're doing that every day. You mentioned something. I was reading some of the highlights that you pointed out that the film brings and the book brings is that it highlights some parts about the people with guide dogs, and even some people on the set decided to volunteer to be a puppy raiser of sorts, but the waiting period that a person has to go through to get a guide dog.
I think people outside of the community are just shocked to learn that it's like a 2-year wait list to get a guide dog. That's just horrible to think about. One of my readers recently, her guide dog retired and she has cerebral palsy. So she isn't really safe walking outside her home with her cane. She's too unsteady. So she has had a very specialized kind of guide dog that also offers stability for her.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't know when she's going to get a new guide. So she's gone from being active and out to almost under house arrest. That's horrible to think about. And of course, one of the bottlenecks in the production chain, for lack of a better word, of guide dogs is that there aren't enough puppy raisers. So we make that point in the film, which I was so pleased that line didn't get edited out on the cutting room floor. So I'm really hoping more people sign up to become puppy raisers. The dogs that were used in the film, there were 8 of them, from 8-week-old puppies to the fully grown guide dog. And they were all supplied by a Canadian guide dog organization. So those people were there on set and talking to everybody. And I was so pleased that 3 people in the crew signed up to become puppy raisers. So let's hope that continues on a much broader scale with the movie.
Well, yeah. I saw over the last year, even more than a year, I've seen guide dogs for the blind out there in California and Oregon that they have been really pushing the puppy raisers and doing interviews with people and showing pictures of stuff and encourage people to do that. So I'm glad that this movie is doing the same thing.
And if I can insert one other answer to an objection that a lot of people have when they think about it, they're like, oh, I love my dogs too much. I wouldn't be able to give them up. Every single person I have talked to, and I've talked to lots of puppy raisers, have said that the most gratifying thing they have done in their entire life, the thing that they are most proud of, is being a puppy raiser. People go to those graduations where the new handler gets the puppy, and puppy raisers will travel thousands of miles to be there. There are bonds formed. This is the real deal of helping someone and knowing that you've helped. One puppy raiser who had a remarkable record of having raised 25 dogs that all became guide dogs, because so many of the dogs, through no fault of the raiser, just don't complete their training successfully. But this woman had 25 dogs. And I said, okay, how do you do it? She said, well, I have a puppy to love and not a dog to keep. So what a wonderful way to think of that.
Wow. It's quite a journey.
Yeah.
25 of them. I know some people who have guide dogs that on the birthday of the dog, they exchange emails or texts and a little contact with the puppy raiser. And it's a connection because even their kids remember the dog. If, not everyone's done 25, but, they remember Logan or whoever the dog is. So that connection that you're talking about does exist. And speaking of journeys, now through the book, the 4 series and the 4th one now, Down the Aisle, it seems like Emily's making a little progression here. Is that working out throughout the 4 books?
Yes. Yes, she's not standing still. She has spoiler alerts, but, in the first book, her marriage falls apart, as so many relationships do, with new vision loss in a couple, and that marriage falls apart. But then she adjusts, she regains her mobility and her independence. There's another relationship, which in the 4th book, Down the Aisle, I don't think that's any spoiler, she does marry this man. In the meantime, she has a girlfriend that she's met when she was getting her white cane training. This woman has a romance and gets married, and they're going to have babies, and they're going to do all the big things in life that we all do, but they're just going to happen to be visually impaired. So there will be things that will adjustments made and showcased in the books. I had one woman who was a graduate of one of the schools for the blind in the middle part of the country, 4 or 5 years ago, but somehow she didn't know about the pen friend. And I write about the pen friend. So she emailed me and she said, is that a real thing? I said, yeah. And I sent her the link to get one. She said, that's great. I need to get one of these. So that made me feel pretty good.
Oh, wow. Barbra, why don't you tell the listeners what's coming up on September 8th?
Thank you for asking. So September 8th, which for me is only 3 more sleeps as we're recording this, I'm so excited, at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 9 Pacific, but check local listings. Hallmark Movies and Mysteries is playing their original movie, Guiding Emily, based upon my book, Guiding Emily.
So everyone can watch it prime time.
Yes, everyone can watch in prime time, and I hope they do. I was present during 2 of the 3 weeks of filming. We filmed in British Columbia and Victoria, which was absolutely spectacularly beautiful. So the movie is full of beautiful scenes and settings, but the acting, I think, is absolutely superb. This is a little bit out of the Hallmark box. I mean, it's an uplifting story, obviously, with a happy ending, but it's not the traditional Hallmark love story. The love story here is a young woman who loses her eyesight in an accident and a puppy who trains to become a guide dog. And so it's the love story of them coming together at the end of the book, at the end of the movie. It's charming, heartwarming. I cried, almost happy tears, almost all the way through it. I know I probably cannot be viewed as an impartial reviewer. Okay, I get that. But honest to God, it is absolutely spectacular. I think it's going to be a wildly successful movie. And I think people will want to follow along and know the rest of Emily's story. So I hope they tune in and tweet and contact Hallmark.
And Garth's story, too.
And Garth's story. Absolutely. Garth is a point of view character in the book and in the movie. And in the movie, he's voiced by Eric McCormick from Will and Grace. He's brilliant. It was so good. I also think particularly this audience will like to know that every character in the movie, with the exception of Emily, and there's a separate story on that, but every other character who is blind in the movie is a visually impaired actor. So Hallmark went to great lengths to find actors from all over Canada to play those parts. And I, at one point, was invited to address them because there's a lot of hanging around on a movie set, I will say that. Not much time while the camera's rolling, and a lot of times sitting around waiting for the cameras to roll. So I was invited to speak to the group, and they had all read the book, and we had a lovely discussion. It was wonderful, and I'm so thrilled that so many actors were able to be present in this movie.
Well, that's really neat that they went to that extent to do that, because that's always a topic out there in the world about who's portraying who, not that I think a plumber needs to play a plumber, but technically it really adds to it when a visually impaired person is playing the visually impaired role.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the serial killers don't portray serial killers. We don't want that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I find interesting is the series C, which Apple TV put out, was filmed up in Canada too. And it just seems interesting that British Columbia up there, they're doing another one with Guiding Emily.
That is so interesting. Canada has fabulous tax breaks for filming, and almost everything you see on the big or the little screen is filmed either wholly or in large part in Canada. One of the reasons is they've got such a wide geography, so they can film a lot of different things. And there are so many cities that look European. So if you think you're watching something filmed in Rome or Paris, they will insert some stock footage of, the Colosseum or the Eiffel Tower or whatever. There'll be some of that. But the street scenes, the restaurant scenes, whatever, they're almost all filmed in Canada.
Oh, wow.
And if you have your screen reader trained on the text at the end, it'll tell you it's filmed in Canada. It's so interesting.
It must have been shocking or exciting when the Christmas Club, Hallmark picked it up to do a movie on it, and all that came with it, I'm sure. How and when did you find out that they wanted to do Guiding Emily?
Yes, the Christmas Club was very exciting, and I sort of thought, I wonder if anything could top that experience. Well, being on set for this did top that experience. So Guiding Emily, the book, published in June of 2020, and I had a Kirkus review for it, a very favorable review in Kirkus Reviews. And Beth Grossbard, our executive producer, reads Kirkus Reviews searching for projects. And she read the review and said, I want to make this into a movie.
Oh, wow.
And contacted me right away. So for me, this was a quick journey. Now, COVID was knocking the legs out of all production, television production, everything. So things got slowed up. But I feel blessed that Beth and her partner, Lisa Demberg, found this book and decided to bring it to Hallmark for a couple of reasons. First, they intended to honor the book in the movie, and stick with the feeling tone, the uplifting nature of the book, and the message of hope that the book has. And they were willing to work with dogs. I had run this book by the directors and producers of the Christmas Club to see if they'd be interested, because they invited me to send me anything I had. And none of them were enthused about working with it. Well, I found out why working with dogs is extraordinarily difficult. So kudos to Beth and Lisa and Andy Makita, who is the director, who is absolutely brilliant. He was just absolutely wonderful. So to them for wading in and working with dogs. And every single actor on set was a dog person. And I'm telling you that they knew enough to cast people who were comfortable with dogs. It would not have worked otherwise.
Right up there with Old Yeller, Homeward Bound, and now Guiding Emily.
Yes. And hopefully more to come if this becomes a series.
So if people pay attention and watch and numbers go up, they might a weekly series, or how is that?
I believe it will be, I'm not sure, I believe it will be a weekly series. And to do that, you need to have the main actors need to have agreed, and the producer and the director, and they've all agreed. So it's not just me whistling Dixie, but I really do think it's going to happen. The buzz about this ahead of time is extraordinary. Couldn't be more thrilled. I've worked very hard to stir up that buzz myself. Unfortunately, the actors who really wanted to do all kinds of publicity are not able to do it because of the actors' strike. So, the producer and I are kind of rowing the boat by ourselves with Hallmark's help too. So we shall see. But I think word of mouth is always the best and most effective publicity.
It's kind of a double-edged sword there. It's nice to know that the strike is impacting blind and visually impaired actors as well. We're inclusive.
Yes, it is, which is really unfortunate because the Canadian actors who aren't really part of the strike are still not able to do the promotional work that they were all anxious to do. And so I'm hoping that they'll all reach a good resolution and we'll all get back to business, and then everybody will be promoting the television series, and that will be a good thing.
What I really want to see or get an audio description of is Garth's trailer on the set. What is that going to be like?
Well, I mean, his physical trailer?
Yes.
So the weather was beautiful. So the guide dog facility brought them, had a big van, those caged closures, so the dogs could just roam around and do things. And they pretty much had to have somebody there beating back the crew and myself, because everybody's like, oh, I'll just go over and pet the puppies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, too many people were exhausting them. So it's like, no, these puppies got to rest because they're going to be on set. Interesting fact about one of the puppies, they did some filming in the first week and then the third week of filming. And the first week, they used a little boy puppy for Garth. And for the scenes that they filmed 3 weeks later, which were close in proximity in terms of the movie progression to the first scene, little baby boy Garth had gotten very big in 2 weeks. So they decided to use one of the girl puppies from his same litter to be Garth in those scenes. So it wouldn't look like, goodness, he's doubled in size in 4 hours.
Oh, wow. Who knew that little girl dog would get her calling?
Yes, absolutely.
That really must have been something to see this actually come to life. You said you're crying on set.
Oh, yeah.
You wrote the books, you created it, but to see it brought out onto the screen, did it come out? In one of your notes, you said you saw a screening of it, and you said it just turned out wonderful.
It did. And I'll tell you what, it is quite the thing to sit there in the booth with the director of photography who watches everything, all the feed from the cameras, and the executive producers. You've got headphones on and you're listening to people saying words that you wrote. That, I can't describe the feeling. I'm getting chills thinking about it. And then to see it in the finished movie, I was just one hot mess. And I was typing a note of thanks to the executive producer and Andy Makita right when I was done. And I mean, I had tears on my hands on my keyboards. And I thought, get a hold of yourself. It is quite moving. And I'm so proud of the work they've done in this movie. And I just, I get weekly emails from people who have newly blind adults or people who are losing their sight. And those emails either tell me that the book has given them hope or has made them less afraid of what's to come. So my biggest hope is that this movie will have a bigger reach and bring that to people who are facing these kinds of diagnoses. Mm-hmm. So this little book and little movie have wonderful heartwarming, but they have a big load to carry.
I went to BarbaraHinske.com and right away it says I can sign up a watch party. Yeah. I clicked up and signed up. Very easy to do.
Yay. Thank you. Yeah, you'll get some little tidbits and Hallmark bingo and some recipes. And so I've never done this before, but I plan to Facebook Live and I hope my internet connection doesn't go out. for both. We'll watch the movie, and at commercial, I'll come back and, give some behind the scenes dirt and answer any questions. And then we'll watch a movie again. And I'm going to do it on the East Coast time and on the West Coast. So Friday is going to be an all day guiding Emily kind of day for me. And I couldn't be happier. And I'm so glad you're going to be there.
Yeah. For all the other listeners that can't make that, since it's on Hallmark, can they dial it up?
Yeah, it'll be on Peacock. I know you can watch it live. I'm not the best at all the ways you can watch TV, but they're also, I've got my list right here. So in addition to premiering on Friday the 8th, it's going to be on, I'll give you Eastern times, 7 o'clock on Sunday the 10th, 7 o'clock on the 14th, 1 in the afternoon on the 17th, and 5 in the afternoon on the 25th, all of September. So if you go to Hallmark Movies and Mysteries, right now it's their top banner movie. But if you put in Guiding Emily, it'll tell you all the show times. And I think you can even put in your zip code or your cable provider or whatever.
And that's great because September, it coincides with the National Service Dog Month.
Yes, we really wanted to make that tie-in to honor all those service dogs.
This has been quite a journey since 2020, June of 2020, when you started this book, and to see where it's come today and the impact that you're having on not only, like you said, the listeners or the readers that are contacting you, and how it's impacted their life. You give them confidence that it'll be all right to some of them, and the education, like the 3 people that are becoming puppy dog trainers, or people who see this, that it gives them a little bit of education about what it's like when they do see someone with a guide dog. So thank you, Barbara, for so much what you and your books are doing.
Thank you so much. It has been the best experience of my life, for sure. And thank you so much for having me on. I always love to be on. You're such a great interviewer.
Oh, no. If I hit the right buttons and get the right things going. Funny you mentioned that about the internet, because I got a notice just before we started up. It says, your internet connection has been resolved or something. And I'm thinking, oh, it went out?
Yeah, it's disconcerting.
Well, thank you for what you and your team have done to make this at Hallmark possible.
Thank you.
Always a great time talking to Barbara. Be sure to check her website out at barbrahinske.com. And check the show notes for all the links. Be sure to check out the original Hallmark movie, Guiding Emily. For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities, and download the free Blind Abilities app from the App Store and Google Play Store. That's 2 words, Blind Abilities. And if you want to leave some feedback, give us some suggestions, give us a call at 612-367-6093. We'd love to hear from you. I want to thank you for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see through
each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the realities
of blind abilities.
And the realities of blind abilities.